Okay, so, well, welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Tahoe Truckee's online streaming service. Good morning. My name is Reverend Pam Brandman. I am the senior minister here at the center. Our center's purpose is love. Our vision is embracing all while awakening to the one. And so whoever you are and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. We know that there are many paths to God, and we recognize that all of them end in oneness and in love. So we're grateful that each one of you is here. We begin our service with our receptivity statement, which we can all repeat together. I am here by divine appointment. Something I am about to hear applies to my life. I am open, receptive, and willing to explore the possibilities. So this morning, our musicians have also contributed to that extra effort to be here this morning. Originally, Joaquin Ferrisi was going to be a musician. He was very excited about playing for us, and then he and Emily found out that they had to get out of their house sooner than later because it's sold. And so they are moving this weekend in the smoke, and they're moving to a new home south of Kirkwood. They were in Homewood, and but the new people that own the house really want to get in right away, so they're moving. So Carol and Rick found us a substitute. So the group Love Eternal, which is Jahred and Shawna, Namaste, they're going to be singing for us this morning. They had rave reviews last time they appeared for our center. I didn't get to hear them, so I'm anxious to hear them. And they agreed to fill in for us at the last minute. However, they are going to use Zoom magic to be in two places at the same time today. Okay? So they're going to introduce their song, and then they're going to vanish on their way. And are they here? Rick?
Yeah, unfortunately, they have not signed in this morning. I can't account for that, but why don't we go straight to their music?
All right, so here we go.
I'm going to play a song for you called Here to Pray. It was a PTP, which stands for Practicing the Principles, which is another word for homework. For a practitioner class, a prayer practitioner class at Inner Light many years ago. And it's about the power of prayer. That was a lot of P's there. PTP.
Positive people, that's what we do.
Positive people with the power of prayer.
Okay, that's what's needed right now, nowadays.
Yeah, so it's called Here to Pray, and here it is.
With our thoughts, words, and deeds, and grow tall like trees.
distraction. Oh, I am here. You're here to play. Oh, I am here. We are here to pray. We are here. That's
Jahred and Shawna are both practitioners, so you can tell that when you hear their words and their consciousness they're singing. So I appreciate that. So our practitioner this morning is Brenda Haldorn, and as I mentioned, she is coming to us today from Crescent City, and she escaped. She and her husband escaped the smoke, and so she's got herself in a nice cozy uh, hotel room, and so she's joining us this morning. And she did a wonderful treatment this morning, and as a result, our internet, which has been going in and out, has had a wonderful treatment for reliability. So we'll see how it all works. All right, Brenda.
Thank you, Reverend Pam. Oh, that opening music was just perfect, Here to Pray. And so let's take a moment to come together and be in the spirit of the one mind, the one life that is perfect, the life that is mine, the life of the one. And we gather here today in community to participate in the wholeness of our community, in the wholeness and the oneness of all creation. And I revel in the peace and the power that comes from remembering that I am of the one. Each of us are part of the whole, the wholeness in its infinite variety. I am that I am. So from this place, I speak my word of power, a word of peace, a word of unity, word of wholeness, of love that knows no bound and knows no condition. This is the truth of the community which welcomes and calls me home. The one life that is God's life, that is perfect, lives through me, in me, and as each of us, as part of that infinite variety. So bringing this realization and this truth home to where it moves out into the world through my thoughts and my actions, through the love, through the blessing. I give thanks. I give thanks for the remembering, for the realization, for bringing home the truth to my own heart. I know this is true for me. This is true for each one of us. We become grounded and centered in this truth, and we are no longer whipped about. We are no longer lost and confused. We are no longer hopeless and despondent. we know the truth. And the truth lives in us, and the truth lives in our actions and in our deeds and in our thoughts. I give thanks for this. I release my word to the law, knowing that it is already done. That truth is deeply rooted in me. And so I give thanks. I allow it to be, and so it is. Thank you. And
Thank you, Brenda.
yes. And today's reading is from the Bible, from the Faith of the Centurion, Matthew chapter 8, verses 5 through 13. When Jesus had entered the Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help. Lord, he said, my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly. And Jesus said to him, shall I come and heal him? The centurion replied, Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west, and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness, where they will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Excuse me. Then Jesus said to the centurion, excuse me. Jesus said to the centurion, go, let it be done just as you believed it would. And his servant was healed at that moment.
Thank you, Brenda. That was quite an emphasis on the climax. Thank you. So this month, we're examining a new CSL theme, Facing the Fear. And so our topic for today is the question of faith. What is faith? How do we release fear and develop faith? What is the role of faith in the creative process? And what is the difference between faith and belief? You know, in the story of the faith of the centurion that Brenda read to us today, it's one of my favorite stories from the Bible. And the centurion was a key person in this story. Now, a centurion is an officer in the Roman army who is in command of a century of soldiers, which is 1,000 legionnaires, or excuse me, 100 legionnaires, a century. Right? So that's why he's called a centurion. And as a Roman officer, besides knowing that whatever he said, his troops would automatically do, they would carry it out. He also knew that there was a lot of tension between the Jews and the Roman army. And so if Jesus came to his house to heal his servant, it would create quite a stir for Jesus, and a lot of people would be upset by it. So that's why he told Jesus, you know, Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. But as a commander, he was used to giving his orders and knowing that they would be carried out without fail. He had authority on the physical plane. but he also saw Jesus as an authority in the mental and spiritual worlds. He knew that Jesus' word would follow. He had no doubt in his mind at all. He had absolute faith in Jesus' authority to heal the servant. Speak the word, and it is done. Now, Jesus recognized and marveled at the centurion's faith, and he said that there's many people, the Jews that actually live here, that should be getting this message. They weren't, and that's, it's when we don't have faith, when we don't listen to that inner guide, when we don't speak our word, we have all of this stress and struggle going on, right? And that's what he was speaking about. So there's another nuance to the story. Why did the centurion have to come to Jesus for his servant to be healed? Now, we know in science of mind that there is no time or space. You speak your word, and whether you're here on the other side of the country or the other side of the planet, the healing is there instantaneous, right? But from a metaphysical standpoint, the suffering of the centurion's servant's body represents the separation of the centurion from the divine will. Right? So when we see ourselves as separate, struggling against something, there's nothing really to struggle against, but we see it, make it real. And that is where struggle comes from. So by asking for a healing, for Jesus to speak his word, the centurion is seeking to align his own personal will with the divine will. All healing, whether it's physical, spiritual, or emotional, is about aligning our will with the divine will, with our higher self. Right? But Jesus tells the centurion, "Go, let it be done just as you have believed it would." And his servant was healed at that very moment. This is the power of faith. How do we develop such a powerful faith? Especially when we find ourselves lost in fear, struggle, separation. Now, it's said in Hebrews that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. By faith, we understand that the universe was formed at God's command. So what is seen was not made out of what is visible. Right? So it's not something where when there's healing, we're not just manipulating things in the worldly level. I mean, doctors work at that level. But the true healing, the long-term healing, happens at that inner level, at the spiritual level, that happens in parallel. And what is visible is formed from what is invisible. Now, science of mind, we talk about the creation process. It begins with our intention, either in spoken word or, even more importantly, those unspoken beliefs. Those go into the law, and it manifests in this physical world as our body. Right? So when we believe in the divine creation process, we believe that you change your intention, change your thinking, change your life. We can take action based on our belief. And that takes faith that something's really going to happen when we take that action. When I was a little girl, I remember there was one year that my mom and dad helped me plant petunias. And we did the whole thing. First, we got little cups of soil and we planted our seeds in there, and I watered them and I watched them, and when are these things going to germinate and pop out of the ground? But they finally did. And the seedlings grew, and then they got to be big enough. We planted them in the ground, and then I watched them. I fertilized them and watered them. We had to pick the right place that had the right amount of sun. And so they became petunias. And they were beautiful petunias. They were so prolific. I was very proud of them. I would pick the dead blooms so that they would get more blooms. I would talk to them, admire them. I'm sure that it helped them thrive. I know it did. Right? And I learned many things. One is that it takes a while for the physical manifestation to gestate and to manifest. Right? It takes patience and conscientious attention as we wait on spirit to do what it knows how to do to manifest the seedlings, then the leaves, then the buds, and then the blooms. I know our two Sacramento women have been watching their tomatoes grow, and we enjoyed some wonderful squash and tomatoes that Maureen sent us up via Carol yesterday. And so it's something that goes through. Let's see. All right, I'm having a little challenge with my slide. All right. So we are, life is really interesting this morning. Say a little prayer for my internet. Okay. Okay, good. I am now back on track. Yes. Okay, so I also learned to trust the creation process and be persistent. You know, there's a lot of times when we are dealing with something, something that's big, some big dream that we want, and it's going to take years to manifest. And there's a lot of steps at it as you go along. And there's a lot of times I know Rick and Marie, when they were walking in the smoke on their hike, their 65-mile trek, there are times when you just put one foot in after the other. You know, you can't see the destination. You know it's there. That's faith. And you just keep moving forward. Now, there was one day when I was leaving the neighborhood last week, I saw this woman on a bicycle, and wasn't an electric bike. She was coming up the hill. She was near the top, so I knew she was really, and she was pedaling like this, and she was moving about this fast, literally. She was pedaling, furiously pedaling, slowly moving up. So she had the gear, down in the very, very, very lowest gear, right? And because we have a steep hill on Steg Drive. And I remember when I was in college, we had you had those beach cruisers with the big fat wheels, and they're old and rusty, and they hardly go anywhere. I had a 3-speed. That was really wonderful. Paid for that, but it wasn't really good, and so I saved up my money from the summer and bought myself a 10-speed bike so I could really get around. Now 10-speed is really 15-speed, but the electric bike is what Michael has, which is it's a really nice thing to have around here in Tahoe because of all the hills where you can go up and down, and I was amazed. He rode all the way up the Truckee River and back yesterday before the smoke moved in. So but it's something that, that woman moving up the hill, she was so determined that she was going to make it, and she was, using her strength, and she did. She did. Now, it's the same thing when Rick graduated, and he passed his panels this week. Yay! We're so excited that we have. You can see that, and so we had a love fest on Wednesday night to celebrate his graduation, and so we're proud and grateful for him, and congratulate him on all of that effort that it took, and the consciousness that has grown as a development, and faith that has developed as a result. When I went through ministerial school, it was the same kind of thing. So I have my path to become the senior minister here at the center began in high school, with the first electrifying time that I walked into a religious science of mind center, and I heard ministers speak about the science of mind. There was definitely something going on here that I wanted to know more about, right? Now, after I graduated from college as a civil engineer and environmental planner, I started working. But I took the science of mind classes. I took foundations, and that was so transformational. Right? Each step by step, we build our faith, we build our consciousness. And then I went through the practitioner training. I served as a licensed practitioner for many years before I finally heard that call to ministry. There was a little kind of would you like to, right after I finished practitioner? And no, I wasn't ready. I decided to be an engineer for several decades. And so life had many ups and downs, including some deep, dark downs, like losing my job in a recession more than once, the death of my first husband, raising my children as a single mom. But I always had faith that Spirit had a mission for me that was greater than I am alone. There was something more. Spirit always guided me the next step forward and the next and the next, and going forward, it looked like my career just went all over the place, up and totally craziness. Looking back, every one of those zigzags was an important step forward, right? And when I would take the time to meditate and get centered in spirit, I had faith that spirit would sustain me regardless of whatever challenges and victories I encountered on my journey. That crazy journey prepared me in so many ways, large and small, to meet my husband, to raise and support our combined 8 adult children, and they still need love and nurturing from their parents, and to come to CSL Tahoe Truckee as your senior minister. By faith, I had learned to surrender to God's love, protection, and guidance. When everything is kind of get a little overwhelming here between COVID and so forth, I go back and I surrender, and there's that faith, just saying, yes, don't worry. It takes 9 months to birth a baby. A center will not evolve overnight. Just keep going, step after step, and everything's provided. All the people we need, all the ideas. This is an idea in the mind of God. This is a great center, and it is unfolding in the perfect way. So our faith, as it develops, it takes time. There's a reason that when you're becoming a practitioner and eventually going to minister, that it takes years. You don't just rush through classes and kind of do it in a very left brain rigid way and get it done, because you don't develop the consciousness that way. You have to allow that experience of spirit to unfold. And so faith develops gradually, layer by layer. What are your persistent thinking patterns? How do you shift them? How do you respond when you begin a new adventure or when you encounter a challenge? And you've all heard the saying about making mountains out of molehills. Fear is a negative prayer. It's the negative use of faith, right? When we get anxious and upset and something happens, we pile on that fear and more, and we finally, that little molehill that could be handled by spirit so easily, we make it into this giant mountain that we have to get over. And so how do you get rid of that mountain? You take it apart the same way you build it up, layer by layer by layer. And we practice. When that negative feeling comes up, with that anxiety and stress comes up, we practice, I see it, and we shift to faith. And the consciousness gets stronger and stronger. And so it works the other way too. When we want to build that positive mountain of faith, it goes on layer by layer by layer. Each successful time that we make that shift, it becomes easier the next time, right? And so our consciousness moves from believing in the truth of spiritual truth, of faith that it's there, and finally we get to a place of knowing that it really is the truth, right? Now, there was a great example about a negative treatment. And I was getting close to, I was in my very last class of ministerial school, and I was working on my final paper for class, and then I had, in the next quarter, I had coming up my capstone exam. So this is an exam on every single one of the classes that you've taken. So big deal, really wanted to study, getting ready for this. And I'm going along, and my hard drive goes out. I mean, my computer is dead, totally dead. And it was like, what am I? Talk about stress. Okay, everything not only did I wasn't able to do my paper, I couldn't type anything new on it. I couldn't get the half-done paper. Everything I had learned for 3.5 years, all those papers that I was going to use to study, gone. I have hard copies of a few, but not many. We do everything electronically these days, and I hadn't my computer. Woe is me. My stress level just went through the roof. You know, the drama of it all was really exciting. You know, heart got going, and you feel really alive when you're fighting something like that. But it wasn't getting me anywhere. You know, I was just using up my time and energy and reinforcing the situation as dire. You know, no way to recover from this. Oh, this is terrible. And then I remembered I wrote a spiritual mind treatment. All that data is divine creation. God is in charge. God is supporting me through ministerial school. God is supporting that computer hard drive to sustain itself so that data can be recovered. And so I called up Gaddy, my local computer expert friend, and he agreed to rush installing a new hard drive, improved solid state, and attempt to recover the data from my old hard drive. I was so scared, so scared. I called up my professor and asked for an extension. He said, yes, thank you, God, right? And then every few hours, when I felt like I wanted to freak out, I repeated my spiritual mind treatment, you know, just repeat, 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 build up those layers. And gradually, I calmed down and started sinking in. I surrendered to God to what would be. I had faith that I would survive either way. God would provide. A peaceful calm came over me. And so I slept soundly by the second night. And so on the morning of that next morning, Gaddy called me. They had let the computer search the old computer overnight, or the hard drive overnight, and it had recovered almost all of the data. Thank you, God. I was so elated. You know, treatment works, even on computers. And my data, my term paper, and my entire ministerial career in training files were saved. You know, I could pass my comprehensive exams. You know, I had also learned the importance of taking action in the physical world and backing up my files, right? But I am so grateful that I had learned over the years to recognize the negative pattern and then to stop and replace it by practicing spiritual principles and practices that I learned through the science of mind. And so the spiritual principles and practices we practice to build our faith. We learn to build up positive layers, to raise our consciousness of living in oneness and in harmony with the universe. So here are the science of mind principles and practices. You know, they're 10 basic principles that are listed here. There's also the qualities of God, such as one, loveness, balance, and wholeness. But these are the principles, kind of the rules, spiritual rules of how the universe operates. And on the next page is the spiritual practices that we use to implement those spiritual principles. So you'll recognize these: spiritual treatment, which is our affirmative prayer, practicing the presence, direct revelation of spirit. You know, we believe that we have direct contact with spirit through our own inner listening, right? And we have these practices that we do, and you have an opportunity to learn and practice these in the CSL certified class called Spiritual Principles and Practices that Reverend Rick is teaching beginning on September 22nd. Now, you can learn to build your faith in God and co-create the loving, peaceful, and joyous life that you desire. And it's so much more powerful when we do it in a group. And so I'd like to share one more story with you. It illustrates the difference between belief and faith. Now, this is a story that's told by Dr. Edward Villian. It's about a tightrope walker. And so this tightrope walker, he drew a large crowd of spectators. You know, he had his rope strung across this wide canyon, and he was going to walk across that rope from here to the other side. And so they all got closer, and all this is excitement. And so he steps out on the rope, and he goes all across. And he comes all the way back. And so he asked the crowd, "Do you believe I can walk across the rope again?" "Oh, yes," they reply, "yes." So this time, he brings a wheelbarrow. And he walks across the rope, pushing the wheelbarrow ahead of him heavily to the other side of the canyon, turns around and comes back. So he asked the delighted crowd, do you believe that I can walk across the road with a wheelbarrow ahead of me? Oh, yes, they exclaimed with growing excitement. This is fabulous. And so now, what are you going to do next? The tightrope walker puts a friend in the wheelbarrow. And to the crowd's amazement and enjoyment, he conveys the friend in the wheelbarrow safely all the way across the canyon and all the way back on the road. The crowd cheered. They're going crazy. And then the tightrope walker said, who would like to climb in the wheelbarrow and let me carry you across the canyon? Silence. Not one person answered yes. The crowd believed that it was possible for the tightrope walker to carry his friend in the wheelbarrow across the canyon, and back on the rope, they did not have enough faith to trust him to carry them personally across the canyon. There was a gap between their observation of the tightrope walker's success and their personal experience of the feat. This is the gap between belief and faith. I can't know if I'm going to make it safely across the canyon in the wheelbarrow if I get in. Ernest Holmes in the Science of Mind textbook glossary explains the difference between faith and belief. Belief may go no farther than intellectual assent, while faith embodies a trust and a confidence. Belief submits of all degrees from the slightest suspicion to the fullest assurance. In other words, you could believe that there's a chance that you could make it over the canyon in the wheelbarrow, but faith would be knowing absolutely, without a doubt, that you would make it safely. Now it is sane and healthy to be skeptical about the unknown, to confront our fears and assess them realistically. On the other hand, if we never take a risk, we never may move out of the rut that we are in our current comfort zone. Without taking a risk into the unknown, we may never become the person we were created to be. And there are times when we need to go out on a limb. It may be stronger than we think, as it's supported by God, but it has to do with what is our purpose and our intention. So how do we know when we want to climb out and climb in that wheelbarrow and when not to do so? Ernest Holmes spoke of it this way. I live in the faith that there is a presence and a power greater than I am that nurtures and supports me in ways that I could not even imagine. In the story, we can use tightrope walker as an analogy for God. God is not a person or an entity outside of ourselves. God is not some old man in the sky, some unpredictable God who favors some and not others. It's not a vengeful and jealous God. It's a God of love. We are never separate from God, which is expressing itself in us, through us, and as us, and in everyone. God is always there for us. God only knows to be love, wisdom, peace, and joy. And as we cultivate that realization of oneness, it provides an inner gyroscope, a knowingness. People do fall. We are human. And when we do, God is there within us, around us, to help us get up again. It's not going to reject us when we fall. It's going to be there to support us. Our goal is to develop faith in God, to know when to get in the wheelbarrow and when not to get in. That inner guide, that inner knowingness knows if we check in. Set aside that ego and check in with Spirit. Martin Luther King drew this analogy. Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. Right? When we're tuned in and trusting God, we know this is the next step. We begin. As we continue our spiritual practice, as we build a history of personal success stories to see God's love, wisdom, and support in our lives, we deepen our faith. We tighten our sense of what worked and didn't work. Some failures sometimes teach us more than our successes. Hopefully they're small enough failures that they're not dark consequences, but it's about learning to trust Spirit and going through the spiritual practices and doing them again and again. That's why we call it practice. Our consciousness grows gradually, cyclically, cumulatively, and relatively. We move from I think to I believe it, to I know it, and finally to accept it. Also important. So faith can transform your life. Start wherever you are on your spiritual journey. Look fear in the eye, knowing that you are looking with the eyes of God, with the heart of God. Take time to pray, to meditate, to commune with God, and to listen to that still small voice of God within you. Practice the spiritual principles by yourself and with others. That's why we come together as a spiritual community, to love and support each other on our spiritual journey. And so we build up that mountain, not of fear, but of strength and faith, layer by layer. Build faith in your unified connection with Spirit as your divine inner guide, indeed as life itself, your higher self. And as you do, you will know when to get in that wheelbarrow and trust God to take you over the tightrope and through whatever challenges are ahead of you. And you will also know when to not get in the wheelbarrow, but instead be still and listen. Or to change your life's direction and discover your higher purpose and not go on that tightrope, but how about this wide open highway? Gradually, sequentially, cumulatively, and relatively, you will grow your consciousness of oneness with God and with all people and all things. Your fear will be replaced by fear. Your fear will be replaced by faith. That's much better. You will find your beliefs strengthening into knowing. Into faith, you are never alone. Your faith will become the conviction that you are one with God, and the power and presence of God is expressing life in you, through you, and as you. Kahlil Gibran said in his book, The Prophet, faith is a knowledge within the heart beyond the reach of proof. You see, it is our faith, our invisible faith, that will make us whole. You can count on it. Let's take this to prayer. So as we settle in our chairs, feeling ourselves connected to the ground and to Spirit in the heaven, figuratively. We contemplate here in this moment God, everywhere present, infinite Spirit, the power and presence that is omnipotent, omniscient, all love. We sense the interconnection of the universe as one life force, one loving life force that expresses itself in every single part of the universe. And we recognize that that life force is flowing through our veins, through our breath, through our every thought, word, and deed. It is all God. And we are inseparable from that one life. It is the truth of who we are. And just as we have faith that the earth continues to circle around the sun and the moon circles around the earth, we have faith that Spirit is the ever-present source of divine guidance, wisdom, love, and strength in every situation in our lives, in our heart of hearts. And as we faithfully make time for our spiritual practice, our conscious awareness and understanding of the divine grows to be more clear, more empowered, and more enlightened every day. A calm assurance of faith grows that we are whole, perfect, and complete right here and right now, just as we are. And we allow that wholeness to express through us. We let it out. We can't hold it in any longer. And now, bring to your mind's eye a situation where you have been questioning what to do next. Where are you? Who is with you? What are your fears? What are your questions? Now breathe out any fear that you might have and breathe in faith. Breathe out any confusion and breathe in clarity. Breathe out any resistance. Breathe in wholeness and acceptance. Sense that divine action is unfolding as you trust in spirit, as your faith in the divine grows. You see God in each face before you. Just breathe. Breathe. You sense the power and presence of God within you, healing your body, your heart, your hopes and dreams, and all of your affairs. It goes radiating into all corners of the universe and beyond, for there are no corners in the infinite. Anything that has appeared to block the flow of truth, love, and life is now dissolving, returning to the nothingness from which it came. Infinite love is the only power in us, in all of life. Love is all there is. And so that divine perfection manifests everywhere. Whoever was struggling, wherever we were struggling, we are now whole. They are whole. Whoever was angry or afraid now finds that anger and fear dissolving. And in their place is love and compassionate forgiveness. We experience the harmony of love and oneness aligning all activity, all relationships everywhere. We live and move and love as one. Nothing is more powerful than infinite love. It soothes and heals all the universe. Our hearts beat as one. All is well. We are whole. Life is good. So good. Thank you, Father, Mother, God, for this healing, for this awareness of the truth of who we are. Joy fills my being. Our faith has made us whole. And as I release these words to the law, I have faith that divine truth is now manifesting. I think it, I believe it, I know it, and I accept it right here and right now. And together we anchor this prayer by saying together, and so it is. So our song that we have next from Eternal Love is called Healing. And so it begins with the words, there's nothing lost that can't be found. It's about healing for ourselves and for our planet that can occur when we have faith. So, Jahred and Shawna.
Nothing lost that can't be found. No story too big
totally divine. We are emanations of thee. The Almighty God has blessed me, God has blessed me. Let it rain down, sweet rain. On me. Let it rain down, sweet, sweet healing.
Read out again, read over.
On us all. Let it rain down, sweet rain. For this beautiful earth, mama.
Apologies, it looked fine from my end. I shall restart.
Right. So I noticed we're running long this morning. I'll try and go through the announcements quicker than normal, but we have some wonderful, exciting new things coming up in the next few months. So hang in there if you can. I know some of you need to go. But as we start, one of the things is we're moving into our prosperity affirmation. And we see that this is our in our Center for Spiritual Living. We are grateful for all of the donations of your gifts and your time and your talents that are shared with this center so generously. And it's because of you that we are able to continue being here to support you, to being this place for spiritual practice and community. So if you would hold your gift or your idea and your gift over your heart and repeat with me. I gratefully and joyfully share my offering, which flows from God, my infinite source. My gift blesses this center and all who are guided, healed, and empowered by its activities. All I share with life returns to me, blessed and multiplied. And so we have in our virtual offering plate, we have many ways to donate. You can go on our website, which is there's some new changes in that website. Rick's been working on our old one, and well, Linda's working on our new one. But you can also make a debit or credit card, or have your bank send us a check. It all works. Next slide. And so, we have our offertory song next.
God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings, God gives me everything I need. God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings, God gives me everything I need.
Thank you, Karen. And so as we welcome all of these gifts and offerings, we are grateful to the infinite source from which they all come, that nourishes and supports each member here, each one who is contributing, each one who receives the blessings of these gifts as they go out to touch the world, to love the world, to be part of its healing and its uplifted faith. We thank you, Father, Mother God, for your loving presence in all ways and in all things. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. And so we welcome you to our center today. I think all of you are people, some that come frequently, or we get to see you once in a while, so we're glad to have each one of you here. Remember to invite your family and friends. So easy to do when we are on the internet these days. And remember that you can also listen to the recording on Facebook or YouTube channel, on our website, and on Instagram even now. So we have a posting on Instagram if you're into that too. That can be. Our building is continuing to close, so we're meeting on live stream. And next Sunday, we continue the Facing the Fear series, and the topic is skepticism, doubt, and fear. Rod Loomis is joining us, our musician, and our new Reverend Rick is going to be our practitioner of the day. Now, this is starting, the next slide is, this is some of the whole wonderful things that are coming up in September, October. So on Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock, tune into the Facebook page for Science of Mind magazine, and you can hear our spiritual leader, Edward Villian, he's the one that told me that tightrope story. He will be interviewing Deepak Chopra. So tune in. That should be very enjoyable. Next, we have on the 22nd for 5 weeks, 5 Tuesday nights, you can study the spiritual principles and practices with Reverend Rick. And this is a new class that we're teaching, and it will serve, you know, Foundations is a 10-week class that many people have taken, but this is a new class, and if you haven't had it, take this. This counts for Foundations, so you can be on the board. This is your prerequisite to more advanced classes, so it's a really great opportunity. And plus, it's going to be a great time to practice those spiritual principles and practices together. So I encourage you to call the office or email the office and sign up for that class or talk to Rick. The next thing now, we have now Reverend Dr. Bull Tupper has spoken here in the past, and he is an old-time religious science minister, amazing man. His consciousness just flows out. So he is, every September he used to come up and stay at Sue Ruda's house and put on a weekend workshop, and then on Sunday come speak at our center. Well, this year they've been doing virtual mountaintops experiences. So Sue Ruda is here with her assistant Josh Holmes, and Reverend Dr. Lloyd is in Cape Cod. So he'll be putting on on Saturday a workshop for us from 1 to 4, and that'll be on Zoom. And then the next day, the next Sunday, he will be speaking at our center. Right? So you want to save that date. And then in October, this is really special. We are going to, Dr. Lloyd is going to be here as a part of a virtual premiere of the Science of Earnest Mind. And this is a movie that was put together by Sue Ruda and Josh Holmes, the producer. And Dr. J. Scott Neal impersonates Ernest Holmes. You can learn all about him. Reverend Dr. Marilyn Leo, who grew up literally across the backyard from Ernest. Her dad worked for Ernest Holmes. And then Sue Ruda. So they're going to be producing it together. They'll show the movie, have a discussion on the afternoon. And then on Sunday, all of those wonderful people are going to have a discussion about the science of earnest minds, what we think about many of today's topics. So great things coming up. Now, in closer to home, we have our Wednesday night gathering. Reverend Rick, would you like to tell us about what's planned for this week?
Is my voice coming through? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. This Wednesday, we have a discussion about what would life be like after COVID. There are many changes that were forced upon us as COVID spread across the world. Our governments have imposed limitations on what we were able to do. But as those restrictions slowly lift, we should decide for ourselves what of that should we retain, what of that we've learned in the last 6 months should we let go. So let's have that discussion this Wednesday at 7. Thank you.
Okay, and then we also have our ongoing classes, which are no less inspirational. Morning meditation led by the practitioners. There was the one this morning at 9:25, and then Monday and Tuesday morning at 8:30. The practitioners are there to lead us in a meditation, start our day and start our week. We also have our other classes. Besides the Wednesday night gathering, there is the Thursday meditation led by American Amy and Penny Schuler. Contact Mary for the link. Course of Love this Friday, it's going to be taught by Sue Pipel. And then A Course of Miracles is this Saturday, every Saturday at 10 in the morning. And then finally, the Adopt a Highway, it's still summer, so we're going to be meeting on September 19th again at 8:30 to clean up Highway 267. So please join us. We had a good crowd last time, so the more people come, the easier it is, quicker we get it done. So there's always a lot going on to support you, and And I especially want to encourage you to call a practitioner. And when life gets crazy and you're feeling overwhelmed, that's why they're here. And so all the practitioners would raise their hands. So we've got Reverend Rick, Nancy O'Neill, and there is, let's see, Carol Delbon is here. Brenda was our practitioner of the day, and she had to, was in a hotel, so she had to leave. And so you can call any one of us. And are we going to have the phone numbers in the chat, Rick? Okay, so we'll be putting those in the chat. So, but prayer works. I know it. I have done it repeatedly. That's what faith is all about, and it works for everyone. So, for our closing song today, we're going to have a great song with Love Eternal called Celebrate Your Life. And the words are simple, so we can all sing along. With your microphones muted, so we can all sound harmonious in the Zoom. And I think we need video, Rick. And then right after the closing song, we will have our closing affirmation, and then unmute everyone for our hospitality time so we can all chat together. All right. So I think we're just about ready.
Aloha.
Hello, hello.
We're going to play a song for you right now called Celebrate Your Life. It's a celebration of life.
I'm seeing the wrong picture, Rick. I'm just seeing your file.
Understand. Apologize. Don't know what I'm doing wrong.
See it? Click on the wrong one.
Yeah, I think I need to play it before I share it. You do this.
I am very grateful that my internet did not go out during our service this morning. It went out 3 times before we started service, so treatment works.
Yes.
Celebrate your life. I will celebrate mine too, yeah. It's good to celebrate this life with you. Celebrate your life. I will celebrate mine too, yeah. It's so good to celebrate this life with you. We say yes to life this day. 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 Today is the best day of my life. Today is the best day of my life. Of life. This moment is the best moment of our life. Today is the best day of my life. We say yes to life today. We say yes to life this day. 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 Yes to love. We say yes to love this day. We say yes to love this day. We say yes to love this day. We say yes to love this day.
wherever you may be.
Yes.
Celebrating your love wherever you may be.
Yes.
And we'll see you again real soon. Aloha.
All right. I don't know. Our internet is really unstable this morning, and so that was a really interesting performance. When it would like freeze, and then he would speed up really fast, and he'd catch up on his guitar work, and then it would slow down to normal. It's the Twilight Zone this morning. I think Rick's bringing up our affirmation. Oh, hello, Jovi. Look at Jovi. All right, if you would all repeat with me. God and I are one. There is nothing to fear. I live in the faith that there is a presence and power greater than I am.